The Council for Inclusive Capitalism, in my mind, would eliminate our present hypocrisy in government and replace it with a new and larger hypocrisy. Right now, in theory, on paper, who are your elected officials supposed to represent? You, right? The people, right? Well, in fact, they represent the elites, because the elites, you've got all these systems set up, but there's ways to short circuit that and basically buy off parties, buy off politicians, control policy behind the scenes. And so even though formally we're a representative republic where the government is the public's business, in reality, they've short-circuited, they've controlled and managed your choices so that no matter who you vote for, their people get in and their policies get implemented. And they like that, but it's this populism that's rising up is a threat to that. And it's really, people are getting the weird idea that they really should have representation in their government. And this is very abhorrent to them. It's something they don't like. And so they want a new system. And they're claiming they're doing this to save capitalism. This is the Council for Inclusive Capitalism, CIC, headed literally by a Rothschild. Lady Linda Rothschild is the head of this group. But it's really just putting into overdrive the ESG agenda, the environmental social governance agenda, wokeness in corporations. And the idea is, instead of government being elected by the people and then corporations basically lobby the government for favors, you just formalize a union of government and biggest corporations along with AI in this case, and the role AI plays. I'll get to that in a little bit. But this is serious. Most people, they're not hiding it. You can go to their website and read about it, that this is what they propose to do. It sounds exactly like a conspiracy theory, like a crazy conspiracy theory from 10 years ago. But what I found is that the conspiracy theorists are starting to have a pretty good record, okay? Things that were dismissed as a crazy conspiracy theory a decade ago have since become history. And so maybe we should, instead of just dismissing ideas with the label conspiracy theory, maybe we should act like grown-ups and evaluate ideas based on whether there's evidence for them or not. In this case, it's not even really up for debate because they're public with it. This is what they want, but it's in a humanitarian goal. The idea is we want to harness capitalism to bring social justice, which sounds like a good thing. Therefore, if you oppose it, you must be what? A bad guy. If you oppose their efforts to centralize control, even much more than it is now, then you're a bad guy. You see how they position that? Guess what? You're not a bad guy. They're the bad guy. They are Bond villain level bad guys. They are Matrix level bad guys, because centralized power always corrupts. And the more centralized it is, the harder it is to reform. So no matter what their stated intentions are, the results of their policy are going to be disastrous for humankind. We have to radically decentralize. They have caused most of these problems by giving global corporations so much power anyway. It used to be that communities had a bunch of small businesses, and those small businessmen, they were run by people that were tied to the community. They were the patriarchs of the community, and they were the source of a lot of charity and a lot of doing good in the community. It was all decentralized. There was no grand scheme. It was just people doing the right thing. Was it perfect? No. But you can't compare you can't compare a system to perfection, because we're never going to have perfection. The people that have utopian ideas about the perfect society are really the most dangerous people, because just as I said before, if you oppose what they're doing and it doesn't work, you become the scapegoat. The opposition becomes the problem. Dissent becomes a disease instead of really the root of all human progress is what dissent really is. We progress as humans because somebody says, wait, the existing way you're thinking about things is wrong. Instead it should be this way. And sure enough, it is sometimes. And so what they want to do is combine formally government power with corporate power. And of course, it was the statement widely attributed to Benito Mussolini. We don't know whether he really said it or not, but it's widely attributed to him, that fascism is the merging of government and corporate power. And I don't know whether he said it or not, but it's a fairly good definition of fascism. Now, they can put socialist goals on the same thing, and that's kind of what they've done, but their moral compass is flawed, and they think they're doing good, and when that makes it even more dangerous, that they think they're doing good. Unlike the Bond villains who are like, we're going to do evil for evil's sake, we're going to destroy the world for money. They're not thinking that. They're thinking, we're going to reshape society in the image that we want because we're the good people. And that makes them the scariest of all, because they're not checked by their own conscience in any way. So you've got this group, Council for Inclusive Capitalism. It wants to formalize the merging of government and corporate power. Well, wait a minute. You mean instead of us governing us decide by who we vote for, corporations will have a vote? Corporations will have not just the subtle influence they have with lobbies and donations, but they'll be sitting there as part of the deciding body? Yeah, that's what they want. They want to cut out all this facade of self-government by the people. It's been a facade for a long time. Really, capitalism, we need to try capitalism. We haven't. We've had cronyism for decades now, and it's gotten worse. Ever since 1913, whoever has been closest to the printing presses of the government, of the central banks, has done the best. It's not an economy decided by merit or service to others. Once you have a central bank, once you have a central bank with a fiat currency, it gets even worse. So those are the problems we need to solve. Those are the things we need to go back and look at. We need to look at how corporations have choked out all these family businesses and sucked up all the wealth. And then they say, oh, now we want the corporation, instead of your loyalty being just to maximizing shareholder return for the stockholders, we wanted you to do good as defined by us. It used to be 10,000 separate small businessmen, the owners of those businesses, each decided for themselves what charity to do, what good works to do. Now it's going to be decided by this Council for Inclusive Capitalism. It's going to be decided by a few big guys at the top, and then the major corporations will fall into line. And in return, they get what? They get government contracts. They get mandates from the government forcing consumers to use their product whether they want it or not. They get government-backed monopolies. And you think that is going to help the consumer? No. Do you think that is going to help the people have a government responsive to their needs? No, it's not. It's the rich people, the super rich, are tired of buying off politicians. They want to rule directly. They want it or through their corporations. They want a direct say, so they just want to merge government and corporations. Listen, corporations are a product of government anyway. Corporation is a legal fiction, an artificial person created by a government act. So where is the check on balance in government when you have government-created corporations having a seat at the table of governmental bodies? There isn't one. It's not inclusive capitalism. It is tyranny called capitalism, because like the old joke is, the other golden rule is whoever has the gold makes the rules. And that would be, it's already largely true in our society, but they want to make it even more true. Now, obviously, the populists that are rising up against these ideas now, and we need to go back and in localism, my book about localism, I address the abuses of corporate personhood and how we need to greatly limit corporations and how corporations have grown over the years. And the root problem is, instead of giving the corporations more power and forcing corporations to do good because they've wiped out all the middle class and upper middle class small businessmen that used to do good instead, the solution is getting rid of those corporations, going back to a decentralized, more decentralized system, and bringing those that class, that merchant class, that business class that sponsored the softball teams, that helped the poor in the town. Bring those back. That's the real answer. But I digress. They know that these populist uprisings are going to not like this. Oh, well, this is just a bunch of rich people telling everybody what to do. We used to at least formally vote for our leaders. They short-circuited the process. They really controlled them. But at least on paper, we were self-governing. Now you're changing that to where we're not. You guys, you're an oligarchy making the rules. And Lady Rothschild and some others, they have a solution for this. The solution is we want AI to step in and be the decider, but we want to give guidance to what AI is. Now, it kind of reminds me of football coaches when they get in trouble and they get criticism. They say, trust the process. That's what they appeal to people, to trust the process. Well, they devised the process. It's their process. So when they say trust the process, they're trying to hold it up as a separate, independent thing that is not them, but it's just them. Formalized, their will formalized in a process. And that is what they want to make AI out to be. So AI has a lot of potential, but they almost want to make it the substitute for God that you go to decide these final questions and say, you know, where should we get our values? How should our values be derived? What should we be for and against? And they want to make AI the process. And it's really just a mask that they wear. Really, whoever programs the computer is going to determine what the computer's output will be. If they're clever enough, and if nothing else, these people are clever, if not moral. And so the Council for Inclusive Capitalism is basically a formalized version that wants to make ESG on steroids and turn corporate America, not just corporate America, but the biggest global corporations, into tools of the woke left. Now, they're going to offend their customers when they do this, but you already see corporations are very willing to defend their customers to please government, because people only have so much money. If the government has a printing press, the government has an endless amount of money. So the businesses do what? They follow the money. And it's not the consumer now, it's government. The bigger government gets, the worse that gets. We have to finding a way for all these distortions to be managed so that they help people instead of hurt people is not the answer. We've got to peel all that back and start over. And they don't want that, because it's basically they've built a giant mountain that they are at the top of. But that mountain is crushing all humanity. They want to try to find a way to make the mountain be beneficial. They can't do it. They can't do it. We haven't had capitalism for some time. We've had cronyism. Young people think capitalism hasn't worked. It's cronyism that hasn't worked, and it won't work because it's corrupt. We haven't seen what capitalism will do because we haven't had it in a long time. They want to make it worse. So CIC is bad, but the best villains don't come off as villains doing evil for evil's sake. They see themselves on some level as being good, even while they're violating all of God's laws. And that's what was happening with the Council for Inclusive Capitalism. I do thank you for